Muhammad Butt. You can find me at Twitter at Muhammad Butt or on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram at 97 passes. That's 97 passes. That's a reference. See if you can figure it out.
Cool. So, how do you feel this World Cup's being anticipated by English fans?
I think it's an interesting one because England have had tremendous success under Southgate. They've not won anything, but they've been really, really good. Suddenly going to finals, going to semi-finals, and but then they've always stunk it up right in the last game. The last game has always been bad. They've never gone out on their sword, on their shield. The closest maybe they got was at the Euros, where they had like a 10-minute spell, 20-minute spell, where Palmer and Jude just sort of went ballistic, and it kind of got them back in the game. But then Spain just took control again. So and it's sort of like, well, Tuchel's got a high bar because he's now got to reach at least the semi-finals. Otherwise, it's going to be seen as, well, what was the point of that? We should have just kept Southgate. There's definitely anticipation. There's hype. The thing as well is with England, a lot of the star players are doing really well. A lot of the players, I mean, they're talking about. I mean, okay, Arsenal fans and Bayern fans are going a bit crazy with Harry Kane and Declan Rice for Ballon d'Or shouts, but they are playing very well. They're having very good seasons. So, about the only, so there's anticipation, I think, but the hype hasn't really hit yet. I don't know what it will take to really get the hype to hit. Maybe a controversial selection decision, maybe, I don't know, something. But right now, the hype isn't quite building. But I feel like it's also because England have sort of done so well lately. It's sort of like, well, we expect to do well. There's an expectation now, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Is there a difference in your mind between anticipation or coverage from fans and media? Like, are you noticing the media being more optimistic, pessimistic?
I think in terms of the media, I think it's very they're playing it straight. They're not trying to get they've not done the usual thing. I mean, well, they kind of have done the usual thing of picking on an England player and just tearing them apart before the World Cup. They kind of went in on Jude a little while back, and it was like then they sort of eased up on him because it's not funny kicking a puppy. Real Madrid is so bad, and so they're just like, you know what, we can't. So there's no Rice and Kane are the two high flying England players, and they're also for reasons which I'm sure we have discussed and which anyone who listens to this podcast I'm sure understands, they're both very protected by the media. So they're not going to get it. So it's just a matter of basically, can Marcus Rashford be enough of a guarantee to play that the media are going to go after him? I suppose that's really the media is kind of quiet about it. The fans, I think they just expect to do well now. They expect really, really good things, not just because Tuchel's a proven winner, Champions League winning coach, really, really good coach, not just because they absolutely dog walk qualifying, but because they have so much amazing attacking talent in the squad. And it's just like, Declan Rice is one of the best midfielders in the world this year. Harry Kane is one of the best strikers, if not the best striker in the world this year. And that alone, you've got to be like, that can, your goal scoring. I mean, what are we talking about here? So, I mean, England have problems in the squad, I'll be honest with you. But in terms of the stars, the two of the star men, I can see why there's hype.
So I've been asking people to kind of play TV doctor for me and
Yeah, yeah,
diagnose
yeah.
the state of the nation's football. So would you
Yeah,
say
yeah.
generally England is in a good place, football wise? And I mean that both in a domestic sense,
Yeah.
and I've been asking people about their ability to export players. But how about England's ability to develop players?
Well, let me tell you something, Daniel. Do you want an athletic box-to-box midfielder? Because if you do, let me tell you, England is the country for you. Do you want a tall centre back who's kind of iffy with the ball at his feet, but will defend a box like that depends on it? Then England is the country for you. Do you want literally anything else? Well, maybe we've got it, maybe we haven't. I really can't say. England is such a weird country. It's just like an entire nation full of eights and tens and centre backs, and it's just excellent at that. And fullbacks, we had a real good run with fullbacks for a while. That's kind of fallen off a little bit now, but it's just the health of the domestic game is very healthy. It's kind of evil and it's bad for the football in general, but it's healthy for England. I mean, Conference League, back to back. Chelsea won it last year, which was really just like Homer Simpson beating all those kids in the nuclear power station plant. It's like, buddy, this is the Champions League squad. What is it doing in the Conference League? What is going on here? And then Palace, I mean, I think they're probably, well, I think they might win it this year, but Rayo's going to give them a game. So don't count Rayo out. Rayo are always really, really feisty. They always give Barcelona Madrid a game. So let's see. But Villa are going to win the Europa League. With all due respect, It's Unai Emery in the Europa League final, and he's not managing Arsenal. Villa are going to win the Europa League, and Arsenal in the Champions League final. Now, I don't think they're going to win the Champions League final. I think they are hopelessly outgunned against PSG, but they'll be in it, and you never know. You never know. PSG have a really bad shooting night. It's not likely, but it might happen. Arsenal could terrorise them and steal, with their set pieces. Although if you see what PSG are doing with their goalies, like they're battering them in training them already to face the Arsenal gauntlet. So from a domestic point of view, the Premier League is very healthy. Premier League clubs are very healthy in terms of the success level. The quality of football is absolutely atrocious. And that's the worry I think maybe that could feed into England is there's just no one's playing good football. Like Man City are probably playing the best football, and they've been well below their usual standard. Right, compared to Bayern Munich, compared to PSG, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, the three best teams in the world, I would say this season by far. English clubs are nowhere near that standard. Like both in terms of execution, in terms of just watchability and aesthetics, nowhere near it. But they're good. So it's like, and of course, this leads you to have the star of one of those teams is English. So can some of the Bayern shine rub off onto England? I mean, I don't think so, but you never know.
So I've also been learning to ask this one.
Yeah.
Where does English talent come from? Is it strictly from city centers like London, Birmingham, Manchester,
or South London, baby? London.
Are there any players that come from like East Anglia or like just places off the map?
No, most players you get them from the northwest, around Lancashire, Manchester, Liverpool, that sort of area. You get them you get a few at the northeast. You get some very talented Geordie players, but mostly it's South London. South London is just an absurd hotbed of football talent. One of the best Nigerian players is from South London. One of the best French players is from South London. One of the best German players is from South London. South London is magic, man, and that's the place to go, the place to be. So many young ballers come out of the South, and yeah, that's where it's. I mean,
what are the cultural reasons that produce that?
It's cage football. It's a lot of cage. It's the closest thing to. First of all, there's loads of clubs. There's loads of clubs, loads of grassroots clubs, loads of football clubs, lots of green spaces to play football, lots of cage football, lots of street football. It's the closest thing to what you'd get in inner cities in, let's say, Paris, right? Where you get loads of players coming out of Paris because it's such a core of talent put in one place. There's not really much room to play any of the more expansive sports. If you're not rich, you're not going to play rugby or whatever, cricket, what have you. So what are you going to do? You're going to play football. And clubs have realized that. They're pumping more into youth development now. And the academies are better. Guardiola basically changed the game, bringing in whole new standards of football. And then everyone sort of copied his model. And you put that model of developing talent onto what the talent that was being produced in South London, and you get this explosion of players. Musiala, Lookman, Elise, that's just those three that aren't even playing for England. Then there's so many talented players coming through for England, and it's only going to get better. The only thing we're left doing is please play some actual good football, England and English football clubs. Because you say exporting talent, that's actually an interesting thing. England might end up starting exporting a lot of talent because the Premier League, it's so expensive to buy English players within the Premier League. Teams will look to say, we'll just sell them outside of the league because we're not going to get anyone to pay this absurd price in the league. And, you might get players who want to do things like Jude Bellingham. We're being like, you know what, I'm going to go to Dortmund. I'm going to go to Real Madrid. I'm not going to come back to the Premier League. I don't want to do that, I want to avoid the terrible weather. I want to go live where it's nice and sunny, and the people are nice to me. Or, well, I mean, as long as you're winning. They're not very nice to him right now. But it's about the identity of English football really has to evolve, basically, because what it is right now is there's talent, but you would never know. Like, they should be screaming from the rooftops, look, we produce these talents, we produce these ballers. They should be playing the kind of football that emphasizes that. Like, you don't see this problem with Spain. Spain will be, we've got Lamine Yamal, we've got Pedri, got all these little wonder kids, we're going to play them. Nico Williams. We've got players we're going to play, and we're going to play football that maximises their talents to see how good at football they are. England have had Phil Foden for how long? this supposedly magical talent. They refuse to maximize his talent. They've got Trent Alexander-Arnold, David Beckham at right back, one of the most prolific creative fullback forces I think I've ever seen in football. They point blank, the English national team refuses to platform him. They refuse. They're just like, no, we want to play Kyle Walker. What do you mean? Or Kieran Trippier. Are you crazy? This guy is a literal once in a generation talent doing things literally no other footballer is doing at right back right now. Play him. Like, okay, I get it. You can't play Reece James. The guy's never fit. Real shame. He's amazing. I love Reece James. You know this. I've said this to you before many times. Excellent footballer. Maybe the most talented English footballer, honestly, all said and done. But just his body can't keep up. But Trent is incredible. Play him. But there's always a big, can we fit him into the... Yes, he creates chances for fun. Real Madrid are terrible right now. In the Clasico, they were awful. Barca dog walked them. The only player who did anything in the Clasico. Trent was just killing them. He's playing these amazing crosses in. And it was just like, in this awful Real Madrid team, where half the team don't even like him, he's doing this, where he's basically going to be hated by the fans because he's about to push Carvajal out the club. He's amazing. Play him. And that England refuses to platform their talents in that same way. And like even looking at it now with Jude, who is a player who I don't rate as highly as a lot of people, but he certainly has exceptional talent. But it's like they haven't found a way to integrate him into the team. Tuchel clearly doesn't want to play him.
Can I nail that down then? So let's talk about Tuchel. What good do you think he'll bring? Because as we mentioned, Southgate was more or less, he was relatively successful given what he was given. Tuchel's the just win it, just win this for us, coach. How do you think that's going to go?
I think that's going to work. This is the thing. Southgate did really well. The talent is there. He got the team to the final, right? To the semis, to the finals. But then I don't want to say he bottled it, right? But he bottled it. Certainly in the Euros. At the World Cup, he also bottled it against Croatia, but they were not going to beat France if they got to the final. They would have got swept by France, swept aside by Griezmann, Pogba, and then Mbappe playing like he was, Giroud. They would have lost that game anyway, right? But they could have got to the final. And the 2024, they got there against Spain. It was a miracle they were ever in that game. If Rodri doesn't get hurt, they probably don't even come back to 1-1, right? Everyone was gassing up Zubimendi, and he got in anyway. That's another pod. Please get me on to talk about Zubimendi, because I was right, Arsenal fans, wasn't I? Anyway, listen. But the Euros, he absolutely bottled it. Tuchel is not going to bottle it. If Tuchel takes a lead 1 minute into the game or whatever it was that Luke Shaw scored, he'll defend the way Southgate defended. But do you know what Tuchel will make sure there is? A counter-attack. He won't have his striker taking one touch inside the box for the entire match. He won't have his wingers taking no touches. He'll be like, listen, get forward and get me a goal. Defend in numbers, defend diligently, but my God, get forward. Southgate just panicked completely and was just like, everyone get back and defend. And everyone got back and defended. And there was no sort of plan to counter. Tuchel won't have that problem. Tuchel will not have that problem. The only thing that's going to stop England from winning the World Cup is one of two things. One is a better team, which sounds like obviously, but like basically if they come across Spain or Argentina or France, they're going to get beat. Probably. Not definitely, but probably. They don't have the facilities to handle that French attack. They don't have the nous to deal with the mountain of cheating Argentina are going to throw at them, and Messi as well. They don't have anything. Anyone, Declan Rice will be doing laps around whatever pitch in America he's doing, trying to keep up Messi in the heat as well. And they don't have anything that can live with the Spain midfield, the Spain wingers, anyone. They Spain beat him once, they'll beat him again. But anyone else, if someone else can take care of those teams, England can beat anyone else. I'm fully believe that. A better team could beat them. And the other thing that could beat them, though, and this is where I think Tuchel is a downgrade on Southgate, is man management. Because Tuchel is, as with Jude Bellingham, he wants to do it his way, and you're going to get on board with that, or you're not going to play. And if he doesn't like what you're doing, doesn't matter how talented you are, you could be Jude Bellingham, overhead kick goal scorer at the Euros, and you'll be like, no, you can just hold the bench, my guy. I'm all right, thank you. I want Morgan Rogers or whatever,
No. That's almost my next question, to look at the squad itself. The goalkeeper is more or less set. We know it's going to be Pickford.
Yes, guaranteed.
The defense is more or less set. I'm interested in the midfield.
Well, the defense, I don't know that it's interesting. I mean, you say set. I don't think they've decided who's going to be left back. Is it
Okay.
going to be O'Reilly? Is it going to be Shaw? Is it going to be Lewis Hall? Then they all do something kind of different. Shaw's a very good defender. He's a very good defender, but he's kind of rubbish going forward. Lewis Hall is a very balanced player, a bit of both, but he lacks international experience and top level experience. O'Reilly's an incredible attacking force. 2 goals in a cup final. Very, very expansive, very intelligent, lovely, lovely stuff. But he's not a great defender, not particularly. So it like who he goes for. I wouldn't be surprised if he takes Shaw and O'Reilly and alternates them depending on what the game state is or what he wants from his fullback. Um, but yeah, midfield is the interesting one.
So what would your ideal midfield be? But what do you think Tuchel will do?
Kobe Mainu, first name on the team sheet. Kobe Mainu, Elliot Anderson, and then depending on the game state, either Declan Rice or Jude Bellingham. I think you need to play the game to control the game. You need to be able to control midfield. Not Jude doesn't help you control midfield. Declan Rice does, obviously, and he's but only not really. He helps you defend, and he's got that amazing ball power to run in a straight line very quickly. Anderson and Kobe Mainu will help you control midfield. Will actually play football. Kobe Mainu is the best English midfielder in terms of actually playing football. Now, he's not going to pick him. I don't think he's even going to take him to the Euros, if I'm honest with you, because Ruben Amorim just hide him out sitting on the bench for half a season. So I don't think he's even going to. I'd be surprised if he takes him. He's definitely not going to start him, even though he should do, because you want someone that's going to be in there, that's going to give you the control of the game, that's going to give you a bit of brains in there. And you watch him play, and you watch him play with like a 90-year-old Casemiro, and he's still making a mockery of basically everyone they've come against, right? Give him someone like Rice and Anderson who can actually run and move. You're looking at serious football. Anderson is a really, really all-around balanced player in the same mold as Rice. And I suppose really you could argue you could put Rice in there ahead of Anderson, I suppose, to be fair. I'm just hating on Declan Rice a little bit, just because I can't be having him. But you can't shout him for Ballon d'Or, guys. The man, you can't do that, Arsenal fans. I'm sorry. Look, I want you to win the league. Don't get me wrong, but you can't be shouting Declan Rice for Ballon d'Or.
There is a world where Declan Rice is walking around with Harry Kane's Ballon d'Or. Like that does exist if Arsenal win the league, because we're recording this on the 14th. There's a world where Arsenal have the title, the Premier League, the Champions League, and then England win a World Cup. Well, and if those are the three that happen, Rice will win it.
I know, and it's absolutely disgusting. I don't, I'm sorry. Look, Jorginho, when Italy won the Euros and they shouted Jorginho for Ballon d'Or because he won the Champions League and he won the Euros. That was offensive. But at least Jorginho played goddamn football, right? Now, I didn't like that idea of him winning it, and he didn't win it in the end because it was an absurd idea. But he played football. Declan Rice is really, really good at set pieces and running in a straight line and tackling people. He's barely a midfielder. He's basically a fullback playing in midfield. I'm sorry. He can cross the ball. He can run in a straight line. He can shoot. He can vaguely pass the ball. He's a fullback playing in midfield. I'm sorry. I refuse to. He's not Ballon d'Or winner. Get out of here. No.
Who do you want at 10? Who do you want at number 10? What, like in an ideal England scenario?
I don't rate him like other people do, but it's got to be Jude. It's got to be Jude.
Over Palmer, over Foden, over Morgan Rogers.
Palmer would be my choice. If you ask me in December, I'm picking Palmer all day, every day. Palmer has pubalgia. And Palmer has been coached by a series of idiots since whenever it was Maresca left. No, basically, I want to pick Palmer. I think he's a magnificent footballer. And unlike Phil Foden, he actually makes correct decisions, which is something Foden has always struggled with. But he's not played well enough at all. Jude, and again, the thing is, Jude hasn't played well either, right? Jude hasn't played well either. But there's two things for Jude where you have to play him. One is if you don't play him, the Madrid media and the English media are just never going to shut up about it. It's going to ruin the whole morale. They're going to, why isn't Jude playing? You got to play Jude. Don't want that. Two, he's going to have a strop. He's a massive, stroppy little boy, and he's going to have a whole little sulk if he's not playing. And you don't want that. You don't want that. I was looking at, there was a TikTok I saw the other day of like top 5 England goals of the last decade or whatever it was. And all the celebrations of all of them were like, Shaw at the Euros, Trippier. All the players are running off going, celebrating madly. And one of the goals, obviously, is Jude's overhead kick. He's the only one. He runs off like this, looking like I've got something. Like it's like he takes himself way too seriously. He doesn't know how to have any fun. He has no sense of joy. I don't know why he is that way, but he is. He's a great footballer. That's not really a question. But yeah, no, not for no. I think he has to start. I don't think Tuchel. I think Tuchel was going to pick Rice, Anderson, and Morgan Rogers. He's going to say, look, that's my three. That's my three that got me there. They won every game of qualifying, which is insane. I didn't concede a goal in qualifying, which is even more insane. And so he's just like, I trust them. And also, and I don't want to defend Tuchel on this one because I do think he's crazy. You got to play Kobe Mainoo and you got to play Jude Bellingham. But logically, if you're playing England, it's kind of going to be a war of attrition, right? They're not going to come out and play football with you. They're going to run into you and smack you in the face. Now, let's say you've been battling with Declan Rice, Elliot Anderson, and Morgan Rogers for 60 minutes, right? They're big boys. None of them are small. They're all that's going to hurt. It's going to be painful. And then he goes, right, on comes Jude Bellingham and Phil Foden, and they're both angry and they've got a point to prove. Low-key, that's pretty terrifying. Like, because it's not even that, because the thing is, the game state doesn't matter if you're a sub of that kind of player. Because if you're, especially if they've got a lead, if England are defending a lead, if England can nick a lead, they did this to Serbia, by the way. It was a masterclass. Had a 1-goal lead. We're getting kind of outplayed by Serbia, getting penned back by Serbia. It's like, so then they brings on Jude, brings on Foden, brings on Eze, and they just killed him on the counter attack. It was like, oh, you're coming forward? Let's just go. And
I totally forgot about Eze being a number 10 as well. It's too many.
No, but that's the point. Off the bench, that's the point. Because off the bench, you can just play 3 10s and it doesn't make a difference because the game state is kind of whatever. You're just defending. And then those 3 running on a counter-attack by themselves is pretty terrifying, really. So I think... go.
No, finish, please.
No, I was just going to say, that's why I think Tuchel is going to stick with his midfield because he's obviously he's not going to be cowed by the English media. He's like, listen, this is what we're doing and this is why we're doing it.
No, the role of Harry Kane I find very interesting in and amongst all of this number 10 discussion because the game that he's been playing for Bayern and even for Spurs for a while has been dropping into those areas. So part of the reason why you play Rodgers theoretically is because he'll be willing to run behind Kane.
There you go.
So what form do you think Kane is in? Because I'd be remiss not to ask about him.
He's got 55 goals.
And what Kane do you think we'll get for England?
He's got 55 goals and he's managed to basically stroll to the title with Bayern. That's very helpful. He's scored in almost all the big games. He's looked really, really good. He does drop deep into midfield and it really winds me up because it's stupid when he does it because it's just like he does it to like, I want to play a long pass now. I'm going to go into midfield. And it's like, if you watch it, so a great counter example is Kane versus Lewandowski in terms of movement into midfield, right? So look at Barca's Fermin Lopez's goal against Newcastle, and then literally any time Kane does it. Kane drops into midfield, he gets the ball, he turns and he slams a 40, 50-yarder to Luis Diaz, to Elise, to Sergio Gnabry. And it's a great pass usually, and it usually gets to his man, and they can create danger, maybe even they create a goal. And it's good. But you've not done anything to disrupt the defense. No defenders following Harry Kane because they know he's going to get the ball, turn around like an oil tanker and smash a long ball. So I'm not going to follow this guy. What the fuck? And then, but you look at Lewandowski. Lewandowski drops deep. The defender goes with him because he knows Lewandowski, if he gets it, he's not going to take it, stop and turn. He's going to ping it sideways easily. And then suddenly they play up behind Lewandowski. Oh, oops. And then Rafinha pings it, Fermin Lopez is in, Barca score a goal. That's how to actually move as a striker, drop deep. You drop deep and you don't get it and turn on it and do everything. You play quick ping passes round the corner. And Kane does this as well. This is not to say Kane doesn't do this. And this is the thing with England. And Rodgers will make the runs beyond Kane. But Rodgers will do it even if he's not going to get the ball. Rodgers doesn't care. Jude will not want to do that. Jude doesn't like making those runs. Jude wants to be in that space, get the ball, ping off to someone, and then run into the box like a striker. Like he wants to get the ball, in what they call it, zone 14, get the ball just outside the box, in the midfield, ping it wide, ping it to someone else, make a run, get the ball back, score. Right? That's what Jude wants to do. He's the striker, essentially, which is when he was at Real Madrid, he had his best season. He was doing that. And that's sort of gotten into his head now. And this is why, by the way, Marcus Rashford is so important. This is why the hilarious thing is Barcelona might actually have saved, but Aston Villa and Barcelona might have saved England's World Cup chances, because England's success under Southgate was built on one of the major attacking things was the Kane and Sterling connection, where Kane would drop deep and Sterling would just ping it beyond him, and Kane would just play it to him. And that was an incredible weapon for Spain, for England, sorry. And when they lost it at the Euros, they lost a little bit of something. It was harder going at the Euros without Sterling. And Rashford is also the other one who can provide that. Rashford and Kane have incredible chemistry. It's like Son and Kane, right? And Sterling, with those three, that front three, that was a great chemistry. They've lost Sterling, and Rashford has fought back into it thanks to Villa. Unai Emery's rehabbed him. You know, you look at the picture of Rashford when he signed for Villa, and he looks like someone who's like we're checking into rehab or something. He's recovering for a substance, like he's been, or like coming out of a torture chamber. Like the guy looks like he's been through the wars, man. And look when he's signing for Barcelona just 4 months later. He's smiling. He looks in shape. He's got. And I'm just like, Unai Emery really saved this man's life. Like it's like footballing wise, Unai Emery saved Marcus Rashford's footballing career. Kudos to Unai Emery, kudos to Aston Villa. And then Hansi Flick and Barca have taken it to the next level where he's not necessarily playing all that well, but he's scoring in big games. He scored in the Clasico, mate. Bang over a free kick to win the title. What are we talking about here? He's gonna start for England. And him and Kane, that chemistry is gonna give England a chance. And Saka's really, really good, and I like Saka a lot. And he's coming into form at the right time now. He had his injury at the right time, basically, put it that way, for England as well. He had his injury at the right time, in the middle of the season. He's had a pretty crap season by his standards, but he's coming into form now at the right time, into fitness at the right time. He's going to be great. He doesn't really gel with anyone, but he's just great on his own. And he defends like he attacks. So you don't really need to worry about Saka. He's like a plug-and-play winger. Like, he's going to go out there, he's going to do his thing. He's going to run through 3 plays. The ball's going to bounce from shins and fall back to his feet. And he's going to shoot and he's going to score. And he's going to work back and defend. And he's just a lovely boy. He's so nice. I genuinely can't ever have a bad thing to say about Saka. I don't think I've ever had a bad even thought about him. He's so nice. Like, and in a really genuine way. He's obviously not putting it on. And like this, Saka's going to do his thing out on the island. Rashford and Kane is the key to unlocking England's potential for actual football at this tournament.
I think that's a good place. I have 2 quick questions and then a last question.
Yeah,
floor and ceiling. What is the floor?
Yeah.
What is the ceiling for this team? And then I'm going to tag the other question, which is, who do you think wins the World Cup, if not England?
Yeah. Ceiling is win the World Cup. I think they have the talent to win the World Cup. As long as someone takes out Spain and especially Argentina for them, they can win the World Cup. I don't know. They maybe could beat France. They won't beat Argentina. They'll get outfoxed, and Spain just had too much quality for them. But yeah, so ceiling is win the World Cup, which is incredible to say. Genuinely, like, they really could win it. Floor, I think quarterfinals. I think they're minimum a quarterfinal team, unless the draw serves not something really brutal. I mean, they've got Croatia, Ghana, and then Panama in the group. They're going to win all 3 of those games. Sorry to Ghanaians. I wish Ghana could proper fight. It's not going to happen. Croatia, you never write off Luka Modric, right? Flipping 100-year-old man, but maybe kind of in this instance, write off Luka Modric. You know, look, nothing would give me greater pleasure than watching him dog walk Declan Rice around Dallas Cowboys Stadium. That would be hilarious, and it wouldn't surprise me if it happens. Unfortunately, he's just lost too many of his supporting cast. Like, he's an ageless immortal, but his teammates aren't. He lost Rakitic, lost Brozovic, lost Perisic. Although, no, Perisic. I think Perisic might even be there.
Perisic will be there, I think.
Yeah,
and then Kovacic, but not in the same way.
Kovacic is So there's just not enough. They've lost too much quality. It would be very funny if they did. But I just think England are going to win those 3 games. They'll get through. Quarterfinals is their floor. I think they're too good of a team to go out any sooner.
Who wins if not England?
Spain is with the proviso that Lamine Yamal has to be fit. If Lamine Yamal does not recover from his hamstring injury, Argentina or France, probably France. If Lamine Yamal is fit, Spain are going to win the World Cup. He's the best player in the world by a significant margin, given that Mbappe still hasn't accepted the fact that he should just be a bloody striker. Like, Kylian, you're 28. Please, just accept it. Learn how to do it. It's not hard.
I saw today that there's a definitive biography coming out on Mbappe, and he's 27.
He's
I'm like,
27, man.
I'm like a
There's a ways to
definitive
go.
biography at 27. That's deep. Anyway,
Then
last question,
he's
Mohammed.
yeah.
No. Finish if you got one
I was gonna
sentence
say
on Mbappe.
I was gonna say he's had an incredible career. What an amazing decade of football he's given us. There's more to come though. I wouldn't be. I mean, dictator or not, there's more to come. He's absurdly talented. You know, don't write
Last
him off yet.
question. Is there anything I
Yeah.
haven't asked about England, the national team, English football culture that you find particularly fun or interesting that you think people should know or might want to know?
Not really. I mean, I just hope that we get a good World Cup song. I just hope we get a good World Cup song, something like Vindaloo or Three Lions. You know, Vindaloo is very crass, but if
What's the
anything
one with
sums
John
up.
Barnes where he raps?
Uh, uh,
Is that thought as a good one or a bad one?
no, that's good, but it's kind of cheesy and but it's great fun. John Barnes doing the rap, it's great. It's great fun. It's great fun. But no, we need something like Vindaloo. Vindaloo is weird because it's not like a. It's kind of it's got a bit of cynical edge. There's a degree of classism because Keith Allen wrote it. Keith Allen's kind of well off, and it's like sneering at working class. But do you know what? Nothing ever sums up the mood that the feeling of being around English national team fans than no. That's it's if you listen to Vindaloo by Fat Les, that's what it's like being around England fans. It's just that's so them, for good and for bad. So yeah, just I think England can win it, but I kind of don't want them to because the football is not going to be great. But I kind of want them to because it's England, isn't it? But I don't think they will. I think Spain. I think Spain. If Lamine Yamal is fit, Spain are going to be too good.
Mohammed, where can people find you?
Muhammad Butt on Twitter, X, whatever it's called now, and 97 passes on TikTok, YouTube, and what's the other one? Instagram.
All the links will be in the description. Mohammed, I thank you for taking the time, bro. It's been good.
My guy, it's a pleasure.
Richard Wilson. I've been here the past 4 and 8 years. Currently, main places on Blue Sky at HYFPRW, The Football Life on Substack, and yeah, every time there's a Balkan side in the World Cup, basically just all over the place.
Cool. So we've been kicking off this way. How is this World Cup being anticipated in your experience by Croatia supporters, fans that you're in contact with?
So obviously there's goings on in America. I think it's fair to say. So it'd be wrong to say it's not impacted demand. I think probably the first thing to say is we will still have the normal amount of tickets sold, but unlike previous World Cups, those tickets are going to fans based in the US already. Diaspora communities. Guys in Toronto, guys in Texas who are like, yeah, okay, actually with the World Cup fairly close by, let's go and intervene. It's not so much travelling fans this time around. So the reasons for that, actually, the FA have spoken off the record that there is a bit of a fear factor from some fans. I think that's in part because one of the big ticket windows came around the same time as everything was kicking off in Minneapolis. So it's hard to deny that the deaths of Alex Prater and Renee Good haven't affected things. The other fact is also it costs a lot, and this World Cup has seen profit gouging like none other to date, and again, that's another thing that's put people off. If you talk about the general anticipation for the World Cup, that's the same as it always has been. People want to see the national team on the biggest stage. This time they want to see the send off of Luka Modric as it will be, but around the World Cup as a whole, it's murkier than. I think even if you go back 10 years, you probably thought, okay, Russia coming up, then Qatar, America will probably be the easy one. It's not been that way, and I think one of the real concerns is that Russia had lots of concerns before the World Cup, but not actually during it. Delivered a good World Cup. Qatar, again, it delivered a decent World Cup. It was the prelude to it that was the problem. This time around, I think there's concern that there's issues in the prelude and there'll be issues during the event as well.
Yeah. Is there what's the difference are you finding between Croatian support and Croatian media, if there is any? Because I'm tending to find a bit of we're anticipating the World Cup from fans, and then when we get to the media, just thinking about the team in specific, there's a bit of trepidation, a bit of worry. There's a lot more pessimism when it comes to journalists, I find.
I think in terms of the pessimism, a lot of that is just because of who's been injured in the run-up, really. Vardiol is sort of touch and go, really. Not to make the World Cup, he will be there, but in terms of what sort of fitness he'll be in. Kovacic obviously has missed most of the season as well. There are positions that are problem areas. The problem areas, if you're a team like Croatia who want to get to the quarterfinals, they're not problem areas for a team that's just getting to the World Cup in the first place. I think that's important to say. I think the other sort of point of trepidation is that there is a bit of pessimism beyond. Because we know this is the last World Cup for Luka Modric. He won't be around in 2030.
We think.
We think. I think he will be around next season. And I think international be surprised if we don't sort of see, Luka Modric's last game in Croatia from that perspective. But this is the end of the generation. We've said that the past 2 World Cups, but this is the end of it. Now what's coming next? And on top of that, you also have that Zlatko Dalic's contract is up, and his status is not confirmed as to beyond this World Cup.
Cool. So what's your assessment of Croatian football? I've been asking people to maybe play TV doctor for me and tell me, is it in a healthy place or is it in a good place? And I mean that domestically, and then the ability to export talent.
Well, I've got more hair than Dr. Phil, so I'll do my best. Domestically, it's in good health. I think it's fair to say. 8 years ago, when this whole Croatian generation, this golden era started, and probably as we were talking 8 years ago, the prelude to the World Cup was in controversy because Luka Modric was on trial. You had everything going on with the Mamiches and issues in terms of just the honesty of Croatian football in general. You don't really have that so much anymore. There are still lingering controversies. There are everywhere, but it's a much cleaner house than it was 8 years ago. There's investment going into the game. Obviously we've got Osiek's new ground. We'll have the new Kanševačeva sometime over the next year, and as soon as that's built, Dinamo move in so they can knock down and rebuild Maksimir. So there's actually going to be a very physical legacy to this past 8 years in Croatian football in terms of the standard of how things are going on the pitch. Obviously we've seen. Last year was a crazy title race. With 3 teams to the very end. Rijeka did well in Europe this season, no doubt about that. Dinamo were able to do well in Europe. Also, we're sort of seeing Croatia being one of the real beneficiaries of the Conference League in terms of being able to expose players to a higher standard of football. And the actual quality of player in the league itself has gone up definitely over the past few years. And it's impressive to see a guy like Toni Fruk, who we will see at the World Cup from Rijeka, be consistently the best player in the league for a few seasons, and him not be at Dinamo or him not immediately jump abroad because he doesn't need to. We're in a very good place. There is concern in terms of what's coming through. I think it's fair to say, but that's just how generations of football work, particularly when you're a nation with less than 40 million people in, and obviously Croatia's far less than that. You're naturally going to have ebbs and flows of the generations, but you still have world-class talents in Vardiol coming through. And I think sort of when we get onto the team, there are areas of depth in the Croatian squad that you might not necessarily think, okay, they have a deep roster there, but actually they have a roster will be the envy of a lot of sides that qualify for this tournament.
When you brought up infrastructure, this was a question I didn't have written down, but now I'm thinking of it. Is there ever a chance, considering how the Balkan countries punch above their weight in football, is there ever a chance that there could be like a joint World Cup? And how long a road is that, if it's even realistic to think of?
Well, first of all, in terms of the realism aspect, it needs people to get on with each other. So no, that's not realistic. Obviously we do have the Euro 2021. Sorry, Euro 2021. Euro under 21s in 2029, I think, which is co-hosted between Serbia and Albania. That obviously could be feisty, but that's a sign that there is that cross-border possibility.
Yeah.
I think the issue is more a size of stadiums more than anything. If you sort of think, okay, Slovenia, the biggest stadium there, 16,000. Croatia, Maximia, when it's rebuilt, will be 50,000 odd. And that's the only stadium of that size in the country, depending on what they do in Split. They're going to have to rebuild or do something to Poland. In Serbia, you've got two stadiums that are the right size, but that's it. And even then, they're the right size, but they need refurbished to ever be able to accommodate that sort of thing. So I think really, yes, there's so many great footballers, and yes, there's money that comes in from outside in terms of player sales, but really in terms of the actual facilities, there's only probably 3 stadiums in the entire region that would be big enough to host that sort of event, unless you're talking about something really crazy like bringing in Romania, bringing in Bulgaria, or co-hosting with Greece and Turkey. You'd need that sort of big donor, sort of to have 7 stadiums so the region can bring 3.
Gotcha. All right. How did Croatia qualify? And what has the federation's what has the federation done post qualification in terms of prep? So
very easily. Had it not been for an 0-0 draw against the Czechs in a home game, they would have been the first European team to qualify. I think there's probably a very good comparison, between Croatia and England in terms of the qualification journey. In terms of both their campaigns are really highlighted by big away wins against the team that are expected to be the main competitor against them. Obviously the 5-1 demolition of the Czechs, it was really 15-20 minutes of just perfection that took it from 1-1 to 5-1 and ensured that there wouldn't be any awkwardness in being able to qualify. Obviously since then, the games have been in so the 2 friendlies that they had in March, obviously in the US, in Orlando, between against Colombia and Brazil. And I think one of the things that has been quite keen to do is sort of bring actually the US-based players into the fold. We obviously got Marko Pasalic, who had been sort of a longer-term member of the squad group, but then we've also sort of seen Petar Musa, who's having an excellent year so far with Dallas, but also brought into the group and really showing what he can do. There's not too many other players out there who can do that, but I think that's been one benefit of having that sort of US-based group is actually, it's been able to allow the FA to look at players they've not been able to look at before. In terms of the actual sort of prep when they touch down, they're based in Alexandria in the north end of Virginia, so it is very much sit in the middle of our grounds and sort of fly between. That's one of the things with the problem being that the US is very big, and that everything's very spread out. It is the travel, and Croatia, like a lot of teams, have sort of gone for that central hub. But otherwise, in terms of the prep, with 3 World Cups into the Dalic era, with 3 World Cups into organisation, everyone knows the format. It is, we'll gather in Rijeka, we'll have a training camp in Rijevica, then we'll have a send-off in Zagreb, and then we'll go. It's routine now. And I think that's one impressive thing about Croatia at this stage is that it's expected.
Let's talk about Dalic then. So he predates the 8 years that we've been doing this. Are fans still happy with him, considering he's done fairly well managing this generation, or is there kind of a hope for something new?
I think the hope for something new was probably applicable 4 years ago in 2022, and the reason I say that is because there was a lot of hope that what Dalic or whoever was managing the team would do would be to explore things a bit differently tactically. which, to be fair, is what Dalic has done. Part of that's been enforced because of injuries, and they've had a lot of trouble in keeping right backs fit. But they've actually sort of moved to having three at the back, and actually saying, we've got a guy in Vardiol who is one of the world's best left backs and also one of the world's best centre backs. We can use that flexibility to play him on the left of the three, or just as a left back, and to actually sort of explore things that hadn't been explored, to make Croatia a little bit less predictable. That said, I think Croatia will be very predictable at this tournament. But I think the one thing that people sort of have a thought on now is just, Mr. Dalic, what are you doing after the World Cup? Is this the time at which you take another contract and go and earn millions doing something else? Because at the end of the day, he's got a World Cup final, World Cup third place on his CV. He can pretty much take whatever job he wants.
Last dance territory for Modric, Perisic, maybe Kovacic. I'm curious your reading of this era, this generation, and how is it still a thing that Modric at age 40 is around?
Well, I mean, how is it still a thing that Messi and Ronaldo are still around? I think if you're that good, it never goes. And I think it's probably fair to say with Modric, and let's get the haters onto you now. He's playing at a higher standard than Messi and Ronaldo are, and he's performing consistently at a higher level than Messi and Ronaldo are. Now, okay, when you're speaking to someone from Portugal, there'll have definitely be a lot of questions about whether Ronaldo's place in the Portuguese starting 11 is still justified. For Messi, it's not, and that's because he's sort of adjusted his play to help his longevity. For Modric, he's just done the same thing as he's always done, which is he's got a really big engine. He's able to empty it week in, week out. He's still, is there going to be a concern if you are playing him, Wednesday, Sunday, 90 minutes, and, in Croatian knockout fashion, 120 minutes? Yes, there will be a concern as to whether you can keep him fit over that long at this point. But if you can get 75 good minutes out of him, that might well be all you need. And, obviously, it's not just him. Perisic has, if we talk about Perisic 2 years ago, he was done at this level. And he was, his time at Hajduk, he had a horrible injury, fell out with the club, and was released, and then hopped onto PSV, and you're like, oh, okay, maybe he might get a bit part player in the Eredivisie. No, he's one of the best players in the entire league. And, it goes to show what idiots run Hajduk. Also goes to show, just how good a player he is in terms of, the other players getting up there. Obviously, you mentioned Kovacic. Kovacic has had a lot of trouble keeping fit. I think that's been the key over the past couple of seasons. And, while I think his starting place isn't, his starting place is unquestionable, I think if you could say, he plays 2 games and they play Petar Sucic of Inter in the other one, I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. I think the other sort of player that you had mentioned it would be Andrej Kramaric of Hoffenheim. 33 now, but again, it's sort of still delivering at a good level. Ante Budimir, 34, still delivering in La Liga. This is just a side of Unk's still got it, and it's a marvel, but it's an indictment of also sort of what's come through in that we've not been able to replace them, but the world-class players. So, deal with the replacing them when you have to replace them, which is in July. But don't end their careers prematurely.
If you could bring back one of the players who's fallen by the wayside due to age, I'm thinking Brozovic, perhaps Mandzukic, you would have a bigger word bank in your head. Who would you bring back for this specific team that would, you think, make the big difference or a big difference?
I think it'd be one of two. I think Mandzukic is the obvious one, just in terms of having that option up there that isn't just Bunyamin. What Croatia don't have, they don't have 2 strikers at that level. I think the other selection would be Lovren. From a leadership perspective, but also just from a flexibility perspective. We know Croatia have 2 excellent centre-backs in Josip Šutalo and Luka Vuskovic. Do they Chalatar, who can sort of play a very specific role in terms. If they're playing three at the back, you put him in the middle of that three, and he's fine. I think if they still had Lovren, then you actually have a guy who can sit in that three and also be an option to rotate in the two, which is what Croatia don't have. But I think there's enough there to not have to worry too much about that. I think the players who you sort of say have fallen by the wayside almost are guys who are sort of should be in the prime of their career, like Lovro Majer, Nikola Vlasic, who sort of had starting places and you would start 75% of the time, but over the past couple of seasons have dropped off a little bit, found things a little bit harder to get consistent starts at club level, and sort of made Dalic have to make decisions.
You kind of lamented that there's not an obvious kind of next generation to plug in, and obviously that would be very difficult to replicate what this one has done. But who's maybe one or two players that you're looking at of maybe under 25, under 24 that you're like, this will be a good stage at this particular World Cup?
Well, obviously Luka Vuskovic. I don't think there's any doubt about that. He's over a very short time. Obviously we've seen what he's done at Hamburg. But he's made his claim to start the first game. Again, you can't question it. And you're a teenager. What are you doing? Starting a World Cup game at centre back, but there's no question over it now. And I think it's great because it was the one position that Croatia really actually needed filling was that second centre back. Because with respect to guys like Pongracic and Erlich, they're very good players. They're not top-ranked players, which again you need at this level. In terms of sort of picking another, I think it'd be interesting to see sort of how Dalic approaches the wings, because that's one of the key things that Croatia lack is obviously pace. Marko Pasalic has been able to get a bit more time has come through from MLS, but obviously he's got injured. He's a bit of a doubt for the World Cup in general. You sort of look as to who's been linked very recently has been Adrian Sekic of Portsmouth, who he changed nationality from Australia in March to join up with the Croatian under-21 squad. Massively impressed with Vic there, and so he's gone to Dalic and said, actually this guy's ready if you want to take him. And I think if Pasalic, if there is still the question mark over his fitness in 2 weeks, then I think Sekic goes. There are others who, I think Adriano Jagasic, we probably won't see him at this World Cup. I think he just made the wrong move in January. Obviously mentioned Tony Fruck, probably a little bit over that age guide now, but it will be a player guys most of what aren't familiar with. He's been strutting his stuff in Croatia for a few years and is absolutely ready to break out at a higher level. And you look up front, sort of behind Budimir, you've got Matanovic, and he's again hit good form at Freiburg to suggest that he can deliver something at this World Cup. And I think that's probably one thing that will surprise people about the Croatian squad is sort of the guys who were familiar names from 4 years ago, who you sort of become used to being in the squad. Guys like Orsic, guys like Bruno Petkovic, they're nowhere near it anymore, and that's not it just in part to them having issues. That's in part to the growth of others.
No. Finish, please.
No, that was me.
Yeah, I was trying to time it correctly. Floor and ceiling are the next part. How good can this be? How bad can this be? And I guess I'll attach to this. Do you think they ever get sick of like the dark horse label?
I don't think they have it anymore.
Fair enough.
I think when you do it two tournaments in a row, you earn shedding that label, definitely. In terms of floor and ceiling, I think this tournament will be decided very much by where they finish in the group, which is an obvious statement, but it's one path sends you the way of Portugal and Spain, one path doesn't. guess which path you want. You know, if you get that good path, you know, there's no reason why they can't reach the quarterfinals. And then at that point, you're actually talking about, you know, a Croatian side which is very used to getting their way through difficult games, and you know, the sort of tournament experience aspect of it. In terms of the floor, I think, you know, obviously, you know, say sort of half joking, it depends which path you end up in. I think one of the things you see, there's very few sides who come to 3 successive World Cups, you know, even amongst the big sides, and you know, reach that sort of last 4 stage for 3 World Cups in a row. And when time comes for you at the World Cup, it tends to come very drastically. You know, we've seen it with Germany, we've seen it with France in 2002. You want to avoid being that. I don't necessarily think Croatia will be the ones where, you know, they come out and they just get smashed 3 times and go out as Belgium did last time. I don't expect that, but you know, it can be very cruel.
Indeed.
Fair to say.
Who's your pick to win the World Cup?
I think it's an open one. I think I have to default to Spain, but you know, I think Spain, France, Argentina. You probably pick any of those 3, and you'll be on the right path. I think there is quite a wide batch of teams in it. Croatia are probably one of that second rank, and I think the tournament is really for Croatia decided by the first game against England, and you know, with England, I don't really know where they're at, because certainly, you know, being based in the UK, you hear a lot about them, but you know, they will be rated as one of the favourites. I'm not sure they are. I don't think they'd beat anything in qualifying. I don't think they've faced a good side in quite some time, and Croatia will be probably the best side they've faced in at least 12 months. So it would be a very good bellwether as to where both teams are at, as to what their hopes should be going forward for this World Cup.
Cool. Last question. Is there anything I haven't asked about Croatia, Croatian football culture, the national team that you find particularly fun, interesting, that you think people might want to know or should know?
I mean, I find lots of things interesting, but whether people want to know them or not, that's another matter.
What's your top one, bro? Give me your best one.
Well, I think one of the interesting things is obviously, you know, this time you're actually facing 2 sides that you've never faced before. Ghana and Panama have never been faced by Croatia before, so that's, you know, breaking new ground there. You know, also so with England, it's almost an old rivalry now. In terms of, this is, you know, where the story started was that semi-final in Russia in 2018. Does the story end here in 2026? How does it end? It's a very interesting one, and it's such a hard one to call, and it's a difficult World Cup to talk about in general, because obviously we don't know how things are going to go, because, you know, with the greatest amount of respect to your countrymen,
I was born in Canada. I was born in Canada, and the only flag that I keep is this one. So, but yes, the accent is a giveaway. But no, finish, please.
But I think that is one of the interesting things about the World Cup. You know, is that it's going to be a very US World Cup. I think that's almost a silly thing to say, but because, you know, it is in the US, but, you know, the fans going to be Americans. The World Cup's been built around getting moments for influencers rather than getting tickets to real fans,
right.
And there's so much to be critical about in terms of how this World Cup's been organised. And I realise I've gone way off topic from trying to give you a fun fact about Croatia. It's got lovely UNESCO World Heritage sites. Go to some of the great castles. You know, Great Lakes. Lots of history, lots of lovely things. But, you know, Matt, what's going on with the people who live in your country?
It's a wonderful question. And I can't honestly answer it. You know, if I could, I'd be making more money than I do. Richard, thank you for doing this. Where can people find you? And what's the podcast again?
So Podcasting is history of Yugoslav football. Goes through all Balkan football. So got two sides of the World Cup this time around to follow. It's usually Croatia and Serbia. This time it's Croatia and Bosnia. So yeah, I will be horrendously busy this World Cup. It tends to be the way, but you gotta love it, haven't you? And obviously on Blue Sky, because Twitter is for the Nazis, at HYFPRW as well.
Indeed. The links will be in the description. Richard, I always appreciate these conversations. Thank you so much, man.
Catch you in 4 years.